Disorderly Product News finds himself on the far south side of Chicago, some 1 hour away from my own house in Chicago. Here on the far south side, we are at the address of 2319 East 100th Street. What happened here on the date of July 13th, 1966 is atrocious. One of the most evil acts done, most vile acts done by a man calling himself a human being. And I use that term lightly. Here is where 8 nursing students were murdered one by one over a night of terror. Richard Speck cut open a back window and entered this property. He made his way inside one of the rooms and encountered a Filipino-born American nursing student who he pushed back into the room. In the room, he aroused more women, in which time he took out his knife and cut the bed sheets into strips, in which he bound their hands and feet. And then one by one, he took them into a room adjacent across the hall to have his way with them. Upon the first woman taking her into the room, she spit in his face, which sent him into a rage, only heightened by 2 other women entering the room. At this point, Mr. Speck, I use that term loosely, the animal known as Richard Speck, was in a frenzy. He stabbed both those women and killed them right there. He raped the other women, and then he went back to the other room, one by one, dragging them into the next room. He started off with 7 women in that room and 2 walking in on him. Somewhere along the night, after hours and hours of him being in this room, he lost count. He ended up killing 8 women. Only problem, there was 9. The first woman that was there, the Filipino-born American nursing student, had smartly rolled underneath the bed. And Mr. Speck, not being on the high side of the IQ spectrum, had lost count in his furious frenzy of murder and rape. This degenerate walked out thinking he committed the first perfect crime, only to find out later that he had left the victim and his fingerprints everywhere. When the news came down, he traveled to Cabrini Green, an infamous project now torn down on the north side of the city. He felt like he could get lost there and his trail would end and he can disappear. Problem was, Richard Speck was an alcoholic and he drank. And when he drank, well, he got violent. He took 2 pieces of glass over a broken 5th bottle of rum or gin, and he started to carve up his arm. Now, the one known fact about Richard Speck while they were in this manhunt is on his forearm he had a tattoo that read, "Born to Raise Hell." Well, going into the emergency room, and now remember, Richard Speck tried to kill himself after this happened. That's going to be very, very important in the psychological profile of what happens to Richard Speck later on in this twisted tale of a degenerate, deviant's life. While in the hospital, he was being attended by nurses and doctors. The whole nation knew of this story. Certainly nurses and doctors in Chicago knew about it. 8 female nursing students murdered. When they saw that Born to Raise Hell tattoo, they knew they had their man. They called the police, and Mr. Speck was arrested. Now, this story starts years earlier. This was a man who could not deal with women. He was rejected by them, and he took that to the utmost offense. He hated women. In fact, he put women in 2 categories. One was an angelic, loving woman. A woman like his sisters. Every other woman was a piece of meat with holes in them that were only meant for one thing. Now, when we think about different people in this world, and we think about serial killers, and we think about the face of evil, oftentimes that face does not live up to what the crimes or what the position or what the deeds and what he's known for in his life. They don't come together. They're not congruent. Make no doubt about it. When you look into the face of Richard Speck, you are looking into the face of the devil. The man is pure evil, pot-marked face, ugly, hideous to look at. Raped, killed. 8 women. It would have been 9 had that woman not rolled underneath the bed and Richard Speck lost count. Now, Richard Speck popped up one more time on the Chicago's radar after his death. He was in Stateville Correctional Center, a maximum security penitentiary in the state of Illinois. Same place where John Wayne Gacy was put a needle into his vein. The plunger was put down and he was murdered. Homicide is what it said on his death certificate. The state of Illinois put him to sleep for good. This was the same spot in which Mr. Speck was serving his sentence, who also had a death sentence, but it got overturned because of politics. There was a tape mailed to a news station in Chicago. When they opened up that tape and they popped it in, one of the most grotesque, shocking sights was on that tape. Mr. Speck had struck again from the grave. At this time, he was dead. And Chicago was aghast again. On that tape was a man who had been in prison for decades. He had his shirt off. He had been taking hormones, estrogen. He had female-induced breasts. He had a haircut like a woman. He was wearing pantyhose. The video camera taped him and another man, an African-American man, sitting next to him. They were snorting cocaine, all in a maximum security penitentiary. Mr. Speck even took a line off the other man's, well, you think about it. If I don't want to say it, where do you think that line came from? Now, it is said by psychologists that Mr. Speck turned himself into a woman to be the play toy of powerful men inside the prison as a way to punish himself. As a way to punish himself for the deeds he had done. Remember, this is the same man who tried to commit suicide with a broken glass bottle. This is not a man who was psychotic and deranged to the point where he didn't care. He hated himself inside. That same man turned himself into a woman in prison so he can be abused, so he can punish himself, so he can be abused like the way he abused those women. That's what the top psychologists say. Mr. Speck, you are one of the most vile human beings to ever walk this planet. And it is right here, 2319, where those beautiful young women who had careers ahead of them, they were doing the right thing in life, going to school, about to graduate, met their demise. You are a stain on the history of mankind, Richard Speck.